Have you ever wondered where the phrase "don't drink the Kool-Aid" came from? Well, it is most commonly associated with the cult, the People's Temple, and Jim Jones. If you want to learn more about that, stay tuned to Mysteries Mysteries. I'm Mr. E, and we're going to talk about all things psychology. When we're looking at the topic of cults, oftentimes we dive into like the blood and guts and gore and all of that sort of stuff, and we'll touch on a little bit of that information here during this episode. But really, one of the things I'm going to focus on is I'm going to focus on how people get involved with cults. The cult that we're going to connect this with is a cult called the People's Temple. The People's Temple was founded in the late 50s in Indiana by a guy named Jim Jones. Uh, Ultimately moved his people out to California. They made their way down to a place called Jonestown, Guyana. And it was here on November 18th, 1978, that Jim Jones got over 900 of his followers to commit mass suicide by drinking Kool-Aid. It wasn't the brand Kool-Aid, but by drinking Kool-Aid. And people oftentimes wonder, like, what does it take for individuals to get involved with cults? And a lot of times people think like, well, they're gullible, or they're highly suggestible, or they're ignorant, or all of those sorts of phrases. But I'm here to tell you that is not the case. What you have is you have an incredibly dynamic leader named Jim Jones, who also happens to be a narcissist with antisocial personality disorder. And so he is all about himself, and he doesn't care who he hurts to get to the top of his game. And he ends up manipulating people to get them to join. And I'm going to discuss a couple terms with you that are heavily involved with cult leaders and how they get people to join. So the first one is called foot in the door phenomenon. Foot in the door phenomenon is where individuals will start with small requests, and they'll get people to accept those small requests, and then they'll ask for larger and larger requests. So they don't start off with a really big request. They start off with a smaller one. So first of all, there's nobody in the world that says when they're 12 or 13, hey, you know what? I think I want to join a cult. That sounds like a lot of fun. No, that's not what happens. What actually happens is you have a group of people, individuals, group of people that are searching for something. And they're searching for spirituality. They're searching for personal growth. They're searching for other people that have similar interests than them. And they just want a place where they belong, and they want a place that feels right to them. And this is actually what cult leaders give them initially. You see, cult leaders don't start off by saying, hey, give me all of your possessions. Don't talk to your family. Get rid of all of your clothes. Only wear these clothes. Never talk to anybody else outside the cult. Don't read newspapers. Don't watch TV. Don't quit your job. They don't start off with those things. They start off with very, very small requests. So here we go. All right. Hey, why don't you stop by? We have a service on Sunday. Check it out. Okay, cool. So they go there, and there's a lot of people there. They're dancing, there's laughing, there's singing, and it's just a lot of fun. And they do a lot of stuff for the community, a lot of volunteering. You're like, yeah, okay, I can volunteer some of my time. That's really cool. Okay, cool. Do you want to be a member of the of our organization? I don't know. I need to think about it. But here, hey, what we can do for you is this. Why don't you stop by on Wednesdays? And we have group discussions on Wednesdays. Check that out. Okay, I can do that, right? So all of a sudden you have a Wednesday night, and then you have a Sunday morning, and you're a part of all of this really cool stuff. And then the next thing you know, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday. The next thing you know, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. You start off by giving maybe 10% of your salary. Next thing, it's 20%. Next thing, it's 50%. The next thing you know, you're giving up all your possessions because the cult leaders will promise you that they will take care of all of your needs. But you have to listen to what we have to say. You have to follow our word. You have to know that our way is the right way and everybody else is wrong. So it doesn't start off necessarily with all of these grand requests. They can start off with just these baby steps. And then there's a lot of other aspects that are involved with these cults, namely isolation, the loss of self, the loss of your own identity, cutting you off from people that you love. There's so many steps involved with this, but one of the first steps is this foot in the door phenomenon to get people um, interested and involved and to get them to start buying in. If you know anything about buy-ins, if you spend money on a kid's basketball camp or you spend money on a choir concert, a choir camp, anything along those lines, your kid's going to do it. Same thing with these groups. It's like the more you invest, the more you want to do it. And so they get just heavily wrapped up into that situation. The second phenomenon is actually the exact opposite. And this one is called door in the face phenomenon. Door in the face phenomenon, they ask for an incredibly grand, large, huge request right off the bat. And with that request, you are shocked. And you're like, no way, I'm never going to do that. But then they'll ask you for a little smaller one. And you're much more likely to say yes. Have you ever been to a car dealership? You see that initial sticker price? Hey, let's look at this $88,000 car. There's no way I'm buying an $88,000 car. Okay, what about this $47,000 car? It's 50% cheaper. Ooh, okay, that's not bad, right? So cult leaders might say, hey, I'll be your God. If you want me to be your God, I'll be your God. In fact, Jim Jones said that exact thing. But then he also said, you know what? That might be too big of a request for you. Hey, if you need me to be your friend, I'll be your friend. You need me to be your father, I'll be your father. You need me to be your husband, I'll be your husband. And all of a sudden, this grandiose request all of a sudden gets dimmed down a little bit smaller, and you're much more likely to say, oh, okay, that makes sense. So about the Kool-Aid. So Jim Jones used all of the practices that a cult leader would use. He isolates his people. In fact, he isolates them so much that he ships them down to the middle of a jungle. And they name it Jonestown because, remember, I said he's a narcissist. So they named it the town after him. And they moved down to Jonestown. And all of these folks are down there, and there's over 1,000 people down there, and they build this community right out of the jungle, and they make their own food, and they have their own doctors and all of this stuff. But you see, what Jim Jones had done is he had ran away from San Francisco because he had gotten in so much trouble there. But once he isolated them in Jonestown, they had no contact with the outside world whatsoever. And they had been so indoctrinated through foot in the door and door in the face that they were willing to do anything that he asked them. I mean, they uprooted their families and they moved 3,000 miles away to the middle of the jungle, right? So when things started to go wrong, this congressman named Leo Ryan went down to Jonestown, and because families up in San Francisco were worried about their people, and so he went down there with several other people, and bad things happened. Leo Ryan ended up getting killed. 4 other people were killed on the airstrip, ready to leave with a bunch of people that wanted to evacuate or leave Jonestown. Back in Jonestown, there were the 900 people, and he had already practiced this mass suicide, murder, if you will, with Kool-Aid. He had never laced it with cyanide. This time it was the real deal. And although some were forced to drink the Kool-Aid, the majority of people, as some witnesses have said, took it on their own. They gave it to their children. They took it themselves, and the rest is history. And that's where the phrase "don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from. And so I just wanted to give you a little piece about foot in the door, door in the face, and also to maybe possibly give a little bit of grace to individuals that have a tendency to get wrapped up in cults of personality and those types of things, because the folks that do this stuff, they're incredibly manipulative and they are very, very good at what they do. And uh, we could talk a whole lot more about the shock and awe of cults and Jim Jones and Jonestown. And perhaps I'll do another podcast to talk a little bit more into that history. But I just wanted to give you a little piece of uh, this story. So that's it for me. I'm Mystery. This was Mysteries Mysteries. Make sure you follow us on our podcast via Spotify or Apple. Check us out on YouTube, YouTube Shorts. Uh, you name it, we're there. Special thank you to the director, producer extraordinaire, Bear Wade with Unify Agency. We want to thank him once again for everything that he does for us. And hey, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.